Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This is going to be the first lesson on percentages. There is a playlist on percentages on the channel, so I would check that out so that you can follow through with this and look at how to use percentages, what they are, percentage increase, decrease, etc. all on the channel. So have a think about where you've seen percentages, and you'll probably think mostly about things like percentages in terms of discount, so 25% off, 40% off, and so on. Or if you're given a certain amount extra free, also potentially things like related to the economy. And there's lots and lots of other examples where percentages are used in real life, things like loans, and things like when things grow, when things change, we usually refer to percentages as well. So have a think about if you can think of any more examples. Now, when we're talking about percentages, you've probably heard of the prefix cent, as in, for example, century, which is 100 years, or 1 cent, which is 1/100th of a dollar. In the same way, when we work with percentages, we are talking about a whole quantity. Remember, a percentage has to be of something. We're talking about a whole quantity and splitting it into 100 equal parts. And it has to be 100 equal parts always. So 1% of something, well, you're going to split it into 100 equal parts, and you're only going to take one of those 100 equal parts, which means it's 1/100th of that quantity. And for 10%, it's going to be 10 times as much. So 10/100ths is going to be 1/10 of that quantity. So when we are talking about percentages, 1% and 10% are usually quite useful to be able to work out easily. Essentially, 1% of something, whatever that amount is, you're going to divide by 100 and you've got your 1%. If you want to work out 10% of something, usually you're going to be dividing by 10. So you divide it into 10, so it's 10%. So, or divided by 100 and then times 10. So you're still technically splitting into 100 equal parts. So another way of writing 100th, well, we can write it using words. We can write it as a fraction, or we can even write it as a decimal. So all of these are equal representations: 1/100ths, 0.1, or in this case also we can say 1%. And it has to be 1% of some amount. So in this case we're just assuming it's 1% of X. Okay, so if I ask you to find 1% of 100, essentially this is your whole amount, and it's very conveniently split into 100 equal parts. This must represent 100, which means each part is worth 1. So you can just write a 1 in each of these boxes, and you can keep going, label everything as 1, and 1% of this is just going to be one of those boxes. So 1% of 100 is 1. If I asked you to work out 1% of 500, well, if this represents 500, so let's just put a box around that. So let's say that this represents 500 here. Could be 500 anything, 500 pizzas, 500 cakes, 500 bananas, 500 pounds, 500 kilograms. Then 500 divided into 100 equal parts means that one part is worth 5. So we can label each of these as 5. And as we do that, we see we're going to end up with a total of 500. So I'm not going to label every single box here, but we can see 1% of 500 is equal to 5. And likewise, we can work out 1% of 700. Well, if this represents the whole, then if we divide 700 into 100 equal parts, we know that one part is worth 7, so each of these boxes is going to be worth 7, and so on, and 1% is going to be one of those boxes, so 1% of 700 is 7. So what about if you want to work 5% of 100? Well, it's the same process, so that this represents 100, this is your whole amount. We split it into 100 equal parts, so each part is worth 1. And then we can see 5 of these ones obviously make 5, so 5% of 100 is equal to 5. 6% of 400, well, if we have 400 and we divide it, 400 or anything, divide it into 100 equal parts, that means that one part is worth 4. So 4, 4, 4, 4, and so on. And 6 of these 4s will make 24. So 6% of 400 is equal to 24. We're going to look at a more formal way of calculating this. This is important just so that you understand and visualize that we're actually always just splitting everything into 100 equal parts. So 50, if we divide 50, so this is our whole amount, this is now worth 50, and we're splitting it into 100 equal parts. 50 divided by 100 will be 1 over 2 or 0.5. So each of these parts is going to be worth half. 20 lots of that, so 20 times a half, will actually give you 10. So 20% of 50 is 10. So that's going to be all of these bits here. Right, so have a go with this question, 1% of 600. How do you work this out? Pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go with this. So first of all, if this represents 600, then we're going to do 600 divided into 100 equal parts, so each part is worth 6. One of those parts is worth 6, so 1% is one of those parts. So 1% of 600 is equal to 6. And then from that we can work out, for example, 2% is going to be 12. 10% is going to be 60, and so on. 7% of 300. Let's try to work this out without a diagram. So you've got you can visualize that 100 grid. And that 100 grid represents 300 pounds. So if you have 300, you divide it into 100 equal parts, and then we're going to multiply it by 7 because you want 7 of those parts. 300 divided by 100 is equal to 3. 3 multiplied by 7 is 21. So our answer is 21 pounds. Okay, true or false? Have a look through these and decide if each of these are true or false, and then I'm going to go through them one by one. Pause the video now and then I can go through it. Okay, so hopefully you've had time to do this. So in all cases we're actually finding 1%, so really what we want to do is just divide the value by 100 to work out 1% straight away. This is really a test of your division skills here. So 600 divided by 100 is going to give you 60, so that's true. For the second one, 1% of 6, well, if you divide it by 100, the decimal is going to move twice and you're going to get 0.06. So this is false. 1% of 6.6. So 6.6, if the decimal started here and moved 2 places left, you can see that is correct. It's been moved correctly. So 1% of 6.6 is 0.066. 1% of 60.6. Again, we're going to divide by 100, so the decimal is going to move. That's divided by 10, divide by 100. What you end up with is 0.606. So this is obviously not correct. This actually hasn't been copied out correctly. So it's more of a silly mistake that this person has made. And finally, 1% of 1/6 is 1/600. Now I'm going to show you the working out for this. Some of you may have tried to turn this into a decimal. I think it's not helpful to do that. So 1%, well, we start with 1/6, and then we need to divide it by 100. Now if you remember from your fraction skills, dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, and that becomes 1 times 1 is 1, 6 times 100 is 600. So we can see this is true. Okay, so that was a true or false. Now I want you to try fill in the blanks. Here, have a go at what you think goes in these blanks. Pause the video and then I can go through it with you. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go here. So 1% of something is the same as 100th of that thing. 7% of something is the same as 700ths. 40% of something is 4000ths. So it's going to be 40. 900ths of something is the same as 9%. And 93% of something is the same as 9300ths. So hopefully you got those right. If you didn't, make a correction. We can go through the rest. Okay, the last bit of true or false here. 30% of y is the same as 30 hundredths of y. Do you think that's true or false? Have a think. Pause the video. Okay, so you should have an answer here. So 30% is 30 hundredths because it's 30 lots of 1%. So this is true. Decide if you think this is correct. True or false? 30% of c is the same as 0.03 times c. Well, 30% is 30 over 100. 30 divided by 100 is 0.3. So it's not actually 0.03. That 0 there is not necessary. So that is false because of that 0. It should be 0.3. True or false? 47% of B is the same as 4.7 lots of B. Pause the video, decide, and then we can have a look. So hopefully you've had a go with this. 47% of B. Now 47% is 47 lots of 1%, so 47 over 100. And we can see that is going to be 0.47, not 4.7. So we need to be careful with that. It's not 4.7, so this is false. And finally, 12.5% of A is the same as 12.5 hundredths of A. Pause the video and decide what you think it is. Okay, now I'm going to tell you the answer. So 12.5 hundredths. Now it feels a bit odd to put a fraction in a fraction, but you're allowed to do that. And this is essentially 12.5 over 100, which is 12.5%. So in this case, this is true. Okay, so we're going to look at more formal methods of working these things out in the next video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you found it useful. See you in the next video.